Hey guys, it's Jason again from Numark. In today's video, we're talking about sample mode on the NS7 II. When the sampler is active, you can use the pads on the NS7 II to launch samples. These can be drums, sound effects and transitions, or loops that can be synced up to your track. You can use your own samples or samples included with Serato. You can also grab a saved loop from a track and assign it to an empty sample slot. There are 4 banks of 6 samples, giving you up to 24 samples. The sampler has 2 modes of operation. The first is the non-velocity sensitive sample player. The sampler button will be lit magenta. In this mode, the volume of the sample isn't affected by how hard you strike the pad. This mode is useful if you're launching loops or samples that you'd like to play at a consistent volume, or if you'd like to control the volume completely with a channel fader. If the sampler pane isn't available, hit the View button until the sampler pane is visible. Let's load up Bank A with some drums from Serato's included sample pack. Drag a sample from the list into an open slot, and the pad will light magenta to indicate that the sample is stored there. You can switch through 4 banks using the parameter arrow buttons. By default, the output volume of the sampler is assigned to the master output. However, you can also assign the output to any channel in the mixer. I'm going to assign the output of the sampler to channel 4. That way I can use the fader to control the volume and also add effects independently to the sampler. You can change the behavior of the samples from within Serato. On Bank B, I've loaded some one-shots, like this air horn, or this laser sound. Trigger mode will play the sample until the end. Striking the pad while the sample is playing will start the sample over. Hold mode will only play the sample while you're holding down the pad. On and off mode will play the sample until the end or until you strike the pad again. On Bank C, I've loaded up some loops. I'm going to set the sampler to advanced mode in Serato to reveal some additional functions. On pad 1, I have a kick drum loop that's included with Serato sample pack. I'm going to switch on sample repeat so that the sample loops. If I want to sync the loop to a playing track, I first need to hit sync on the track. That will make it the master deck. Next, hit sync on the appropriate sample slot. It will turn blue. When you launch the loop, it will be beat synced to your track. No matter when you launch the sample, not only will the tempo be in sync, but the beat grids will as well. It's possible to nudge the sample out of the beat grid alignment with the plus and minus buttons in Serato. The sync indicator will turn gold to indicate that you're out of beat alignment, but the tempo will still be synced. To return them into alignment, hit the sync indicator again, and the beat grids will be locked into beat. You can add a stored loop from any track to the sampler. You can send a loop from a playing track to the sampler on the fly by activating an auto or manual loop. Storing it in a saved loop location and dragging it from the white virtual deck into Serato's empty slot in the sampler. You'll just need to make sure the correct loop location is selected in the sampler. You can then sync the loop to your track in the way previously described. If you'd like the pads to be velocity sensitive, you can enter velocity trigger mode by pressing the sampler button twice or until it turns purple. The pad's volume is now dependent on how hard you strike the pad. This can lend a more human feel to your finger drumming. However, if you're using the sampler to launch loops, you probably won't want them to be affected by velocity. Thanks for checking out this video on the NS7 II in sample mode. Stay tuned for more instructional videos on how to use the Numark NS7 II.